Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. In today's topic, this Anglo and our Anglo Adjacent Philly officer racially terrorized a Black American teen, high school boy, and these other Black American teens that was around him, or numbers of them, that they were just waiting for the bus. But no other cultures, backgrounds, sections of alternative lifestyle category, youth, immigrationists, border breaker, legal immigrant, youth, etc., 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 infinite, astronomical, has not ever have to worry about this type of equivalent of black pain. Nobody of other cultures had to experience this, etc., of their youth. And this Black youth experienced what he probably thought that he never would experience. Because unfortunately, there are some naive Black youth that think, oh man, some of that stuff, that racism, that some of they hear some of the Black American adults, which is not going to be that many, first of all, talk about racism that's still going on. Let me add racial racism, terrorism that still goes on. Oh, that's old news now. Now when we have various people from different cultures and friends, as if Black American people only a couple of generations ago still didn't have various types of friends in different cultures, right? That ain't changed. The only thing that's changed slightly more, well, gigantically more, is that you have various cultures and backgrounds, etc., that are sitting there bypassing Black Americans and sitting there smiling their faces and utilizing generic allegory of people of color and minority and BIPOC, Black indigenous people of color, marginalized groups, communities of color, all those type of game playing that people are sitting there using toward millions of Black Americans. That has definitely changed. And millions of American Blacks are still naive on those kind of games. That definitely has changed than a few generations ago. But unfortunately, this Black American man, he's emotionally traumatized for life now. None of those Black American ones, the Black American teens, they also had a type of traumatization themselves, right? And they also hopefully learned a very still present day 21st century lesson. Nothing has overall changed relating to the anti-American Black hatred. It was going on 400 some plus years ago. It was going on 300 something years ago. It was going on 200 years ago. It was going on 100 years ago. Today is September 18, 2025. 100 years ago would have been 1925. Racial, anti-American Black hatred was going on then. And it was still happening to a Black American youth as well. Now it's the 21st century, early from 2000 to 2025, still numbers of American Black youth, numbers of gigantic amount of American Black adults still feeling Black pain. And you still got, unfortunately, millions within American Blackism and American Black, numbers of millions of American Black youth, with very few exceptions to that as well, that still are very naive. And this right here, racial terrorism entity, could be regular Anglo-ness, could be even more Anglo Adjacent. Because less than 100 years ago, you had people like numbers of Irish personnel, numbers of Scottish personnel. The list is so small of the number of Anglo immigrationist personnel that was in America less than 100 years ago. But primarily a lot of numbers of, not a lot, but numbers of Irish and Scottish and things like this, and some Polish, and the list goes on. And numbers of people were not accepted within the congeminationists of the overall amount of Angloism, the one it applies to. So they had to sit there and pledge their allegiance to say, look, we will do whatever, show Black Americans hatred, if you allow us to be honorary personnel within Angloism, and numbers of personnel within Anglo Adjacent ones were accepted. It's the way it went on that part. So let's go ahead and share my screen on this, right? Let me read this for a second. I'll show a quick video after this, and I'll probably call it a day. This particular Philly police investigationist. Oh, by the way, this only happened a few years ago. See, this the brains of this system is like, well, Black folks, get over the past. But if you saw that quick image I showed you, I'm gonna show it again, of a certain bad dictator way over there in old Germany across the Atlantic Ocean that's supposed to did some bad things to millions of certain people, right? That you better not sit there and minimize. That he even said himself, he got his race, he got his certain type of hatredness by certain types of Anglo-ness that was practicing racial anti-American Black hatred toward American Blacks. Oh, but some ones within various parts of Vietnamese culture don't want to talk about that, right? So this particular, so this didn't happen a long time ago. This is only a few years ago. There are numbers of people who hadn't heard about this story. Some have forgot about this story. This is why it's so important to sit there and not forget. Never forget. Again, this particular Philly police investigation incident, racial anti-American Black hatred incident, in this video involving a white officer or white adjacent officer and a Black teen. This now viral video of the encounter in which the officer, this Anglo adjacent officer, can be heard telling a Black student, Black American student, to remember you were shaken in this police car, has the teen's family alleging racially profiles, not alleging jack crap, right? When something is anti-Semitic, you think somebody say allegedly? No. So, you see right here, this was in 2019, one long time ago, right? And still, what's going on in 2025? Still toward numbers of Black American youth, huh? See, he was putting this racial terrorism entity that's supposed to have his uniform on, that's supposed to be protecting and serving, which obviously did not. He sit there and put this innocent Black American male inside his police car for no reason, as you will see on this situation. The Philly Enforcement Department is investigating at that time, by the way, nothing real basically happened, an incident in a racial hatred, which should have been a racial hate crime against this particular officer, bad-seat officer, involving a white, again, all white adjacent officer and a 15-year-old Black teen at that time in high school in North Philly. And the family alleging racial profiling. 2 videos of the encounter in which the officer can be seen holding the teen's arm, aggressively ordering him into the back of a police SUV, telling him to remember you were shaken in a police car after releasing him because there was nothing to hold him on. Because, well, besides being Black, a Black American, let me phrase that, because there are some Black adjacent hiders who cosplay Black Americanists. Oh, they know who they are. Disgusting. And again, I'm not talking about some of the decent old ones that had to come over to America because, hey, there are situations they were able to do, but they also show the respect of knowing without most wouldn't even be here regardless if without what Black Americans had to go through for centuries and now. But the overall amount of Black adjacent ones are not like that. They are fleers. And they are scammers in whatever way they can. Because however interested in people give them resources to do businesses, educational opportunities they give them, various parts. Don't get stuff confused. I mean, the list is long. I don't want to go into all that situation. So getting to the point on this, it was captured by the video was captured by the fellow students and posted to Twitter and Instagram. The Twitter version has been seen, viewed more than 1.4 million times. And how many people listening to this right now don't even remember that or haven't even seen that? The black teen in his videos, Javon Benner, says that he and roughly 10 of his classmates, basically mostly black, had left this particular, whatever the Vox Big Picture High School around 3 p.m. and walked a few blocks to catch a SEPTA bus at the intersection of 24th Street and Cecil B. Moore Avenue, for the people who know where that's at, up in that area, or maybe visit that area, where a white Anglo Adjacent police officer drove past the group, staring at them. This is like some old KKK type stuff, right? 60s, some 70s, dang sure 50s. This is some scary kind of stuff. The white officer or Anglo Adjacent officer then returned minutes later with 2 more questionable officers, basically with more police vehicles and 3 additional questionable officers on that. Benner, who had taken his shirt off while at the stop because it was getting too hot outside, no legal about that, says things got scared when more police cars came, as if he was some kind of criminal, right? He was just doing felonious, so mischievous type stuff, right? The Anglo Adjacent cop who had drove past us came back with more cops, and this time he singled me out and gripped me by my arm. Benner said, I kept asking him why he was doing this. He squeezed hard on my arm as I tried to let go. He yelled at me to get inside his car, threw my legs in the back of the car, which you see in the video, and slammed the door. I started shaking because he got blacked. He never thought that would happen. Him being 15 years old at that time, and he got his remindment. He was scared for his life. I kept asking him what's wrong and that I didn't want any trouble. He kept yelling at me. I didn't understand what was going on. And seeing the video, Benner was inside the SUV. His classmates began confronting the officer. Now, salute to them that they sat there and had the strong, powerful, historic powerhouse of the great American Black achievements. See, don't let people sit there and act like, oh, Black Americans just be sitting around wasn't doing nothing, just doing criminality. Man, please. We're not going to get in all that, right? So they made numbers of Black American ancestors proud that they sit there. We're not going to do this. We're not going to let you just sit there and just tell us anything, knowing he didn't do nothing. So they made the Black American ancestors proud on that. So they confronted this racial racism, terrorism, Anglo Adjacent officer, who then suggested that they start walking home. They supposed to just leave and leave this Black American teen sitting there in this police vehicle. And how many numbers of Black Americans have lost their lives in these vehicles mysteriously, huh? And you're going to see about these little, I showed earlier a little picture of these little people of color, minorities, non-Black, who are just as sidetracked, parasitic, dangerous as certain type of bad seed ones in certain parts of predominant culture. Because they look at certain ones within certain parts of Angloism as their gods. And none of these people of color, minorities, non-Black, they are very deadly. They will sit there and walk over the bodies of Black Americans left and right. And unfortunately, none of the Black Americans, unfortunately, are someone that's gullible, with few exceptions, keep allowing these generic people of color, minority people playing game tactics with numbers of millions of American Blacks on this situation. So none of them left, citing their approaching bus. They said, hey, man, a bus is coming up. So this particular person, 16-year-old Black female student who shot the version of the encounter, credit given to her, posted on Instagram, said she knew something was wrong the moment this racial terroristic ass cops kept telling us to bag up, right? Some people of color, minority, non-Black ones, also in here. The person said didn't do anything wrong, and for them to just put him in a police car without telling him why didn't make any sense. Again, make the Black ancestors proud. Wilkinson says, I pulled out my phone and filmed it because I wanted to make sure he was safe and for them to know that none of us were going to leave until he got the car alive. That's scary, right? Other students were present, collaborated Beaner and Wilkinson's accounts. Wilkinson says that once it became obvious that Beaner's classmates were not leaving him behind, these racism, terrorism, Anglo Adjacent cop treated the situation as a joke. The racism, anti-American black Anglo cop, or racial racism, Anglo Adjacent cop, terroristic cop version, treated the situation as a joke and let Vaughn go. What other culture would this happen to? Do you think a Black American officer in uniform that's supposed to protect and serve would have did this to a bunch of Anglo students, and he grabs up an Anglo boy, and he calls up some other officers, which can be primary Black officers, and they sit there and look around him and see what's going on, and the primary Black American officer grabs the young Anglo boy, puts him in the car, and he tells the other Anglo kids, hey, y'all, you go. You think that's going to happen? Of course not. Because they think. And this is supremacy, which is the most awesome mental manipulation force that ever existed. They really do think Black people are all stupid and weak. Because they say those Negroes, they keep voting. For the last several generations, they just completely vote a block, no matter what. They say they vote Democrats. They vote Democrats primarily. Do they get anything? Do they get any anti-American hate crime laws like they sit there and did the generically Asian, right? With the previous administration didn't take but less than, I think it was a year or so, if that, plus or minus, and there was the anti-Asian hate crime law bill, just like that. And the number one most hated people by crime stats is Black Americans, and Black Americans don't get no hate crime law. Do you know how insulting that is? And then they found out that the Asian one, I was lying, because the little few ones that they be shown, look at a Black person did that, and they found out the majority ones who was doing things to whatever this generic anti-Asian is was known as Anglo personnel. And they found out some other ones just outright lying, right? And what does an Asian person look like? Somebody's in Armenia is an Asian personnel. Somebody's in Iran is an Asian person. Certain parts of Russia is considered Asian. Oh, see, they don't like people talking like, throwing that truth out there like that. They don't like that. But unfortunately, they know a lot of Black Americans, by the millions, are not going to sit there and just read through the games. Right? And just going to continue to keep allowing to be insulted on this situation. Because Asia is a continent, not a certain type of people. Asia is a continent, not a certain look of a people. And what about the Afro-Asiatic people? Huh? You see how these games going, right? The racial racism terrorism cop started laughing and smiling like what he was doing was okay. Make sure. The racial racism, I'm repeating, the racial racism, anti-American Black Anglo cop or Anglo Adjacent cop started laughing and smiling like what he was doing was okay. That's some sick stuff. That's some demonic stuff. Wilkinson said, when he let Vaughn out of the car, he told him to tell us. When he let Vaughn out the car, the Anglo or Anglo Adjacent racial racist anti-American Black enforcement person, told him to tell us, the black fellow, and some of the Black teens around, why he stopped him, and something was very messed up about that. Of course, it is. He told me to remember I was shaking in a police car. Beaner said after the officer had let him go. Before I got out of the car, he had asked me why was I shaking and why I had taken my shirt off. I told him it was because it was hot outside, and he acted like he didn't believe me. He let me out, and I felt humiliated and hurt. He got black pained, 21st century style still. This particular enforcement department has not identified an officer or the reason for business detainment at that time. We take matters. I don't go on all that. That's a lot of time. That's just fictional little white lies, genericality, tactics, stuff like that. I'm not going to go on all that. The ones who do that. So to think about it, let me go ahead and show this video. So now let me stop that. Let me stop that. Oh, before I forget, I was talking about these people of color. You see in the video, these people of color right here, minorities, right? And you hear this little, you hear this little mousy rat mouth voice of this one right here. It's laughable. DEI, 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 DEI. And there's another one, a pseudo DEI on this other side on the situation. And if people think DEI just happened to disappear, then that personnel is naive. It's like affirmative action that had grabbed up so many people's attention. Oh, black people, affirmative action, when the number of people who have received affirmative action was personnel within various parts of Paname's culture. The people who received a gigantic amount of minoritiness resources was numbers of women within the Paname's culture. But they sit there are so supreme, the people, the system, they sit there may seem like it was black folks who are the recipients on that. The nerve of that game, right? So let me go ahead and, oh, before I forget, see, they'll sit there and they don't want, see, these Black American youth to know about this kind of history that was a long time ago. This is why the SPY is saying the word people of color and minority. It is an ignorant statement. It is a naive statement. It is very naive. Because what is, this was still going, this was what, in the 50s and 60s, this was still going on. So when you had numbers of Black Americans, talking about people of color, minority, that makes that numbers of personnel look very naive, right? It's like minorities. Oh, minorities. When again, one of the number one groups that are considered minorities is numbers of women within the Paname's culture considered minorities. You see how that game goes, and many of them double dip. Let me say that again. Many of the ones I'm talking about, they know they are Anglo women, they double dip. They slide under, oh, they're oppressive group, right? He's who oppressing you? Who's oppressed you in this country? Black Americans? I don't think so. So they get resources and different things related to, oh, they marginalize and they're oppressed and stuff like that. Women, they get the women stuff, right? And unfortunately, there's some silliness of people, of Sister of Chaos members who sit there and fight against Black American males that they think is supposed to just settle for this angry, bitter, anti-Black relationships by numbers of Black American women once applies to. That they really think Black Americans supposed to just settle for this hatred. And then numbers of Anglo feminists once applies to. And some other groups of people too, in this womanism. They laughing at Black American women, the ones applies to, who sit there fighting against Black American males, and they sit there practicing feminism. They get laughed at, right? But this is what numbers of this system want Black American youth to not know anything about anymore. That this is just way back then. It's like that disturbing word, N-word. I cannot stand hearing that N-word from numbers of Black Americans. And when they do that, the ones that do, you like, why are you using that word? One of the most disturbing, one of the most heinous, one of the most violent terminology words ever, one of the most hatred words ever existed in America is the N-word. So you know that's an internal mental racial sickness. When you're certain types of Black Americans saying that word like that. And then it's crazy, you start hearing some other people saying that word, you're like, hey man, because I've asked the question, why are you using the N-word? And how many of them be like, I don't know. What? Right? So let me go ahead and hurry up here and play this particular last quick video about this situation as well. Make sure you can see this. This particular person, this particular Black American female that recorded at the time. Instagram is helping this get out, but it needs to be more attraction. This happened in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on this particular time a few years ago, which was a long time ago. A group of school kids, and most is going to be black in that situation on that. And I were waiting for the bus at the bus stop when a racial racism, terroristic Anglo version or Anglo Adjacent one enforcement car person in this car came to us, slowed down, and started staring at us. Then kept going down the street. Basically came back. And this is what it started right here.
Excuse me. I'm not really getting water.
I'm also going to play. In the back of my car.
Back
up. In my car.
I'm sorry.
Sit in my car.
Revon.
You guys go.
We about to wait for
You gotta go home.
Oh.
Start walking.
No, the bus right here. The bus stop right here.
All right. What's something's going on out here, right?
Oh, look at the badge number.
Look at it. Yeah. Didn't do anything wrong, right?
You see these people of color, right? There's a people of color. Hold on, there's a people of color right there. She's a people of color, a minority right here. DEI. That's another DEI. And this system knows there's not enough males. There's a lot of gullible males who sat there and so naive to not even see the system is putting more numbers of womenism, feminism in various positions. Yes, and it is on purpose to do certain things on that.
Excuse me.
Right? And you hear that little high, mousy voice. That's DEI. Right?
I'm not really getting water.
I'm also going to play. In the back of my car.
Back
up. In my car.
I'm sorry.
Sit in my car.
Revon.
You guys go. Sit in my car.
Revon.
Pushes them.
You guys go.
We about to wait for
You gotta go home.
Oh.
Start walking.
Listen to the accent. See, to me, that sounds like more of an Anglo Adjacent one on that part, where the person's parents or grandparents or whatever, they fled themselves, like another opposite version of certain Black Adjacent ones that fled once applies to, right? But this right here probably comes from a generational fleeing background on this, right? That was probably, he's an honorary person within certain parts of Panamani's culture, right? Honorary one.
No, the bus right here. The bus stop right here.
All right. What's something's going on out here, right?
Oh, look at the badge number.
Look at it. Yeah. Didn't do anything wrong, right?
He would not talk that hatred, Anglo Adjacent, racial racism, anti-Black conversation with no other kids. And he better not sit there and do that to no immigration groups. He better not sit there and tell that stuff to what we call, some numbers of Jewish kids. He would lose his job immediately. He better not sit there and tell that to any other type of group because he knows better on that situation.
Stop right here.
All right. What's something's going on out here, right?
Oh, look at the badge number.
Look at it. Yeah. Didn't do anything wrong, right?
Why you put them in the
see that? Exactly. Look at her badge number too. Oh, that's so cute.
Bam. See that? That's another people of color in the back. Another people of color. Another minority on that situation back there, non-Black, that they look at their certain Anglo masters as God, the one it applies to. Because there are numbers of Anglo person, I don't go into all that don't act like the overallness ones in certain kind of ways, right? This is why you hear certain type of Anglos calling certain Black folks that get with numbers of Anglo personnel in marriages or something like that, wiggers, right? Or numbers of Black females too, call them wiggers. They get numbers of Anglo males, call them wiggers, right? That's why they had miscegenation laws. Mildred versus Lovey in 1960s, right? They was trying to make sure that it was illegal for, they weren't talking about no other cultural backgrounds, that basically they were saying basically blacks, you ain't supposed to be intermarried with whites, right? Now, this was what, see, Constitution ratified 17, I think 80s or something like that. Just give me an example. 1780, 1880, 1880, 1980. In 200 plus years, right? But this is supposed to be the beacon of light within the country, right? But at the same time, only less than 100 years ago, less than 100 years ago, you still had miscegenation laws in the books in the 60s. They're saying, nope, you cannot intermarry, especially Negroes, to any type of Anglo-ness. Negro, you see how this goes, right? And you got these little people of color, non-black, minorities, non-black, and they sitting there, they sit there and been buying their time, laughing at Black American people. They're sitting there allowing these people to sit there and slide under the banner of people of color and minority, right? And these DEI adjacent ones, right, are being allowed to put these uniforms on to sit there and institute their own little agenda, right?
Why they put him in the car?
For nothing.
You know how they be, little bro. How they be, little bro.
For nothing.
You know how they be, little bro. Keep it, bro. Hold on. What happened? Keep it, bro. What he do?
Let me see your phone real quick.
Fuck they getting on arrest.
Let me see your phone, please.
No, recording.
Can you call my mom?
No, recording.
So he knew this racial racism, anti-Black American racial terrorist. He knew he had nothing on that black boy, the black youth male, to hold him because he never did anything. And you see this little wicked rat mouse mouth type of people of color right here. She didn't say nothing. The one on the left side, you got another people of color minority, non-black. And over here, you had this little, look, I think it was maybe Anglo Adjacent herself. Either way, still minority, slipping on the womanism flag, and then did back out and play minority flag. They said that game goes. No one said nothing. Now, if that had been a Black American cop that did that, please.
Wait, what happened?
Nothing. He just rolled up on him.
I would got back.
What happened?
Wait, what happened?
Nothing. He just rolled up on him.
Say that again. He must have did. He must have did that little boy. He must have did something. He must have been looking suspicious or something.
Wait, what happened?
Nothing. He just rolled up on him.
I would got back, bro. They probably thought he was somebody else.
Again, what is this little half a pound weighing DEI, people of color, minority, non-black? What is she going to do against a tough competitor who's hooked on drugs or beyond strong? What is she going to do? What is she going to damn do? Right? So they are putting these type of additional adjacent DEI ones in these uniforms, left and right, because they are wanting, or they have an agenda of utilizing these people as an additional buffer toward Black Americans. Like they're sitting there putting more type of Black adjacent ones in various types of uniforms and other type political positions and other type of Black organizations. All supremacists is brilliant. And they know millions within American Blackism are naive to the game, with few exceptions.
Run, bro. That's Javon.
And the bus right there.
He innocent, bro. Our bus coming.
And the bus right there.
Oh my.
See, that's the bus that they was waiting for.
And the bus.
That's what they wait for, the bus right there. Right? That's y'all go. He's like, we wait for the bus. Right? Why they sit there why you sit this racial racism Klan type thinking Anglo Adjacent person in uniform, right? Who is a type of pseudo DEI, just without the DEI in there, right? More of the nepotism, more of the cronyism, right? On that situation.
Bus right there.
Oh my children.
The bus right there.
The bus right here. You gotta get home. All right. What Vaughn do?
And again, this is despicable. This little people of color minority, again, she weighs about half a pound, and she sit there and let this little racial racism terrorist monster sit there and just throw that little boy in there, black little fella in there. Well, she just showed up. Well, once she found out, hey, this is wrong, what did he do? What did he do? And these other, the left out of here, this little people of color minority over here, and the other Anglo Adjacent or regular Anglonism, DEI, right? See, they know they're not going to have enough people to say, okay, we want to make sure that is a requirement that no matter what, be it the military, be it various parts of enforcement, women and men must do the exact amount of physical requirements. Exactly amount. You must do the same exact amount. And there are some people who know, I won't go on all that, they know that's not true for various sections.
She don't know.
You got it. Now, and look at him. Racial racism, terrorist, Anglo Adjacent. He's just in the car trying to figure out what can he try to say or something. Because he know when he detained that little black fellow, teen, there was no reason. He just rolled up with these other DEI type of nepotism people, version like himself, in a different way.
Me.
Who's waiting for the three?
Me.
See, he didn't know. See, he knows he was wrong. He knows that. Right? And they this little racial racism, anti-American, black, Anglo Adjacent person in uniform that should not even be able to sit there and have the sock being to put on a uniform like that. It's supposed to be protecting and serving. And what he did was sit there to show racial racism terrorism. Oh, and there's numbers of him like that. The people know this. It ain't me just saying that. Or should I say, I'm not even saying that. That's research. They've done studies on this that show that certain supremacist type people are in certain parts, in certain militariness, and certain enforcement people. Don't take much research that, right? For the people who know that, know. So the thing about it is, it was such an insult on that situation, because the thing about it is, again, the most hated group in America is toward American blacks. Has the most hate crimes put upon them is American blacks, but don't have no hate crime laws put for American blacks. How insulting is that? You're talking about the culture that has the most hate crimes put upon them in America that does not have a hate crime law. But the people who has not been in this country for centuries of any significance than American blacks, no one else comes close. 400 years ago, the only main people in this country of America, actually, when they was made up of colonies, would become American blacks, what we call colonial, basically Anglos or Anglo adjacent ones, or Anglos basically, and what we call Native Americans, whatever that's supposed to mean, because there's black natives. But of course, there's some people that's naive and where they at, but at the same time, but they don't have that lava flow for the $5, $half Indian England ones, right? I got it. I got it on that, right? The system loves that part, loves it on that. And what about the ones who are not on the Trail of Tears? How are they getting this gigantic amount of reparations? Oh, we don't talk about that, right? So the thing about it is, the most hated group is American blacks, but do not have hate crime law legislation. But before this Trumpism, oh my goodness, Trumpism, oh my goodness. But at the same time, before Trumpism got to office, the last 4 years, still record-breaking, border-breaking, illegal immigration personnel, still nothing's basically done overall, right? Openness for border-breaking, illegal immigrant women and however other people to pop out these kids. Bam, automatic citizenship. Bam, automatic citizenship, right? 14th Amendment, right? Black Americans go run the country left and right and bamming kids left and right, and so they're having kids and they have basically dual citizenship. They be like, I don't think so. Black Americans can't run. Black American women can't go to the country left and right and go get other people's and getting free pregnancy care. They be like, I don't think so. See the game, right? See how that game goes. But I make that point because Asia is a continent. Asia is made up of several dozen countries and however many thousands of other islands. But this system has made many people act like Asia is a certain look. You see how that game goes, right? You see how that game. An Armenian can be walking around and they can say that's an Asian. A Pakistani is an Asian. Afghanistan is an Asian. Parts of Russia is an Asian. Iraqis is an Asian. Iranian is Asian. But you people walk around and say, oh, that Iranian guy's an Asian. That Iraqi guy's an Asian. No, but you see the game, but they're considered Asians. But a hate crime bill was sit there put in law for Asian hate crime bill before Trump got off within that 4 years. Just like that. The game, right? But watch this.
The reality also is this. Any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No. I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
But at the same time, the anti-Asian crime bill was passing law, right?
Ever benefits that black family? Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
But again, an anti-hate crime bill was passing law, previous administration, before Trumpism, right? American blacks still have the most hate crimes put upon them, but they didn't get no hate crime law bill. But the majority, let me phrase that. The black folks that voted in the 2024 election, the majority black women voted, anyway, for Kamala. The majority of black males who voted for Kamala. And still, black males still got blamed for Trumpism, getting office. You know, some sick stuff. And there was a gigantic amount of various types of Hispanics that voted for Trumpism. And how many numbers of Asians, whatever section of Asians voted for Trumpism. But nobody was sitting there jumping on their case. You see how this game goes, right? See how this game goes. But at the same time, how many numbers of Hispanics, their kids benefit off DACA programs? Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that was under Obama. Right? Made sure to help out border breaker illegal immigrants, utilizing those kids as pawns. Huh? Kamala Harris was one of the first personnel herself. That was some of the first personnel that officiated same sex marriages. But what you hear Kamala saying, I ain't gonna do anything for black people. But watch this. The Biden-Harris administration announces new actions to protect L-ness, G-ness, B-ness, TQ plus communities. Protect L-ness, G-ness, B-ness, TQ plus communities from attacks on their rights and safety. Support L-ness, G-ness, B-ness, TQ-ness plus kids. Let me say it again. Support illness, genus, venus, TQ plus kids so they can thrive. Do you think that little racial racism, terrorism, dodo bird in this video, Anglo Adjacent, bad C ones, would have sit there and did this to an illness, genus, venus, TQ pluses of a teen and did that to them and threw them in a car? I don't think so. Shield illness, genus, venus, TQ plus Americans from book bans that threaten their rights. Show 400 years ago, show 200 years ago, which would be what? The 200 years ago. So 1825. Please go ahead and show where illness, genus, venus, Qnus, Q plus, IGQ 658753, that those acronyms and numbers and what's going on then. Please show that. Please show 100 years ago, illness, genus, venus, Qnus plus, IEQ 356557885, what's going on 100 years ago. You see how this disgusting game is going. What about the blackness of illness, genus, venus, Qnus plus, that sit there and get hatred from within certain types of Anglo-ness version of illness, genus, venus, Qnus plus? Oh, don't talk about that, right? Right? Don't talk about that. But Black American youth are some of those hated group, along with the Black American adults, like talking about coons and sellouts, but don't have no hate crime bill law passed. But at the same time, voted majority for Kamala Harris in the 2024 elections, right? Oh, boy. But again, American blacks are told every day to forget about the past, as if our mentalities know the difference between what happened 400 years ago, what happened 300 years ago, what happened 200 years ago, what happened 100 years ago, what happened 2 days ago. Today is September 18th, 2025. What happened of black pain that happened yesterday on September the 17th. Black pain that's going to happen today. How many black folks that's going to get black pain today? That's going to have hatred put upon them today, September 18, 2025, right? The game. But they tell American blacks to forget about history, the past, but they know you better not tell personnel to forget about this. You better not. Right? You better not. But they want to sit there and tell you to forget about this. This happens after that bad holla. And however many of you call it conspiracy all you want, is saying, wait a minute, did he actually unalive himself in World War II? Did he actually do that, or did he go to certain other places? Either way, again, you better not sit there and tell the people to forget about him. You better not. Right? But black folks, just forget about the past, right? Forget the past. You just vote across the board. You know, Democrats, end of story. Don't vote for nobody else, right? But we ain't gonna give you anything, no hate crime bill laws. But we're gonna sit there and help out border break illegal immigrant personnel and stuff like that. We're gonna sit there and we didn't get anti-Asian hate crime bill law legislation, even though Asian is not a one-look people, right? It is made up of a dozen countries in Asia, but we are just gonna play little games and act like Asian is a certain look people, even though it's Afro-Asians.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
What was that?
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
But the majority of black males and females that voted in 2024 election voted for Kamala. Do you think any other culture that Biden would insult you like that? If you got a problem with voting for them, you ain't brown. If you got a problem with, you don't know who you're supposed to vote for in this election, you ain't yellow. Or you ain't Jawish. You get the point? They know better than that. But the insulting of American blacks is so natural. And unfortunately, millions of American blacks keep allowing this the spouse of hatred, and it's insulting as a Black American that just arrived over here right recently. So right. Irish Americans for Harris, but again, American blacks are told you forget about the past, just call yourself Americans, and see right here they said Irish Americans. And how many personnel have been in certain sections of enforcement in some other places? The one supply suit and has done some anti-American black. You look at the draft riots situation that happened in the 1800s, and you see draft riots, in the 1800s, and see who are the people who were showing major on this particular major monstrosities of hatred toward American blacks. Who were the main people in the draft riots in those 1800s? At the same time, I keep trying to tell American blacks to forget about the past, right? I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.
They don't have nothing to do with it. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
What will benefit all society? Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or